Okay.
I was thinking
Mit,
today.
mit einmal, der sitzt Cyrilla durch ein offenem Fenster. Der Tate geht heim. So suddenly Cyrilla saw through the open window that her father was going home. Nicht geht, nor leeft mit ribne meshune dicke tritelig. So he wasn't walking, but rather he was sort of mincing with strange little steps. In alle Batei Midrashim singt man noch die letzte Tfilis von Neila. Und der Tate läuft schon heim. So in all the shuls, they were singing the last few prayers of Neila, and her father was already running home. Verzitterte ist sie geworden. Und nicht tot, nicht lebendig, herausgelaufen immer gegen. So, trembling, she began to tremble, and neither living nor dead, she ran out towards him. Tata, macht sie, und die Lippen zittern ihr. Dir ist Chas v'Sholem nicht gut geworden. So she says, Father, and her lips were trembling. Are you not feeling well? Hat auf ihr Schimmele angestellt ein paar wilde Augen. Herumgeguckt sich mit Verdacht und still a Brumm getan. So Schimmele looked at her with a pair of wild eyes and looked around with suspicion, and quietly gave a shout. Stube rein, get inside, und mehr gar nicht. And he said nothing more. Wie Verkischefte von Tatens Cook und Bafel ist Cyrilla rein in Stub und Schimmele noch hier. So as if she was spellbound from her father's strange look at her and his order, Cyrilla went, entered the house, and Schimmele followed her. Hat gleich genommen Schließen, Tier und Fenster, und sein Atem ist gewesen schwer und seine Noslöcher aufgeblasen. So he immediately began to lock the door and close the windows, and his breathing became heavy, and his nostrils were sort
wide.
of wide, blown open. Tata, was is?
Puffed up.
Puffed up.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tata, was is? Hat Cyrilla kaum herausgestammelt. She said to him, Father, what's the matter? She hardly managed to stammer out. Was ist? Hat Reb Schimmele übergekrimmt mit einem keichendicken Atem. What's the matter? He übergekrimmt. I think it means sort of, he's almost spat out.
No. I think that what he did was he tried to imitate her. Immigrant. He repeated what she said.
Okay.
What is?
Yeah.
Goldale is right.
Yes,
No.
correct.
What?
Quite
Say
right.
it again.
Quite right.
Yes.
She imitated her father. She repeated what he had said. He said, "Was is?" And he said to her, "Was is?" but in an angry way, with a gasping breath. Und plötzlich hat genommen Kritzen mit die Zähne und Treißeln mit der board. And suddenly he began to grind his teeth and tremble, and his beard trembled. Tu zich huis, Lilith. Get undressed, Lilith. Tu zich huis, sorg ich dir. I don't think it's necessary to translate that again.
But
Or
this
vi-
Lilith character,
Yes.
we
Lilith.
talked about it last week just a little bit. So
Yes.
Lilith is like a symbol or a metaphor for feminine wiles, feminine
Yes.
seduction.
Yes.
Seduction,
Nechama.
sinfulness, yes.
Sinfulness, exactly.
Yeah.
And where does the image come from, Lilith?
It comes
what
from-
source?
I think it's a Kabbalistic
Yes,
Yeah.
origin. It has a Kabbalistic origin.
it is from Kabbalah.
Yeah. I think there is a legend that Adam's first wife was Lilith.
Lilith.
That's
And
right.
she wouldn't listen to him. So God created Eve,
Eve, yeah,
but Lilith always hung around. That's,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
So
It's,
As a temptress.
as symbolizing epitomizing the temptress, yes.
yes.
Mhm.
There's
Okay.
even a book named Lilith.
Mm.
There's Isaac Bashevis singer who comes from a Hasidic background. He uses Lilith in his writings.
Mhm,
He's
yes.
talking a lot about Yetzer Hara and how it's
Okay.
difficult for men to overcome it, to overcome Lilith.
Mm.
They have to blame somebody for their lack of whatever. Okay, let's continue.
Or maybe it's a positive thing. Golda, we have to, we have to look at it today. You have to be open-minded.
Oh,
Not me.
Okay.
Okay, lass mir weiterlernen.
okay, yeah.
Okay. Und wir wollt sich allein gewollt absprechen von einer größeren Kischef, hat gich genommen, Preplen a Posek von Mechadish sein die Levona. And as if he wanted to ward off a terrible enchantment, he began very quickly to mumble a verse from the brachas that you say on the when there's a new moon. Machshefa lo tichye. A witch lo tichye. A witch will not be continue to live. Lo tichye machshefa.
Oh my God.
Tichye machshefa lo. And so it's the same words that he's saying over and over again. I didn't look
Wait,
up.
and this is actually part of of something that's said. Machshefa lo tichye. That's
Amen.
actually said.
I must say, I didn't look it up, unfortunately.
No,
I think
that's-
so. I think
Okay.
it is. I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you remember
Yeah.
such a thing? That
And I
it is
think it's
said a wish
mechashefa.
will not
In
live?
Hebrew, it's mechashefa lo techaye. You will not let a witch live. Not mechashefa will not not mechashefa lo tichye, not mechashefa will not live, but you are
Not
not
leave,
to allow
live. Not
you are
leave,
not to
live.
allow a witch live.
live, right.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Ich wollte
Sorry, Yankev.
mal
That's-
reingeworfen in Tfise immediately.
Ah,
Als ergens een reis van Beis Medrash und redt seit so a Techterl.
Ja,
Ist
Taka.
euch von Sinnen. Ist euch von Sinnen.
You can excuse him, I don't.
No.
Goldele, you ought
I
to be
don't
there.
excuse him, but this is the situation, Golda. He is
Yeah.
out of his mind.
He's out of his
Ich
mind.
wollte, if I were her, ich wollte gelaufen, fighten schnell.
Yeah.
okay,
But
okay.
Und du nicht helfen.
just one thing I want to say is that this, whatever it is that has been said here, is taken out of context. And
Oh, yeah.
so you've got to understand what these words are in the context of the these tefillas of the Chiddush
Yes,
Levana.
yes. That we understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand him, but I understand it's Phyllis.
Right.
I think we
Okay.
understand him very well. I think we understand him very well, actually. But we'll talk about that later.
We don't
Okay.
agree with him, huh?
That's right. A different story.
Yeah.
That's our Plötzlichkeit. Okay.
Ja, von einer Plötzlichkeit und von einer schäumendigen Präppeln ist Cyrillen finster geworden in die Augen. So from this, the suddenness of what he said and the this schäumendig
Like frothiness.
Yeah.
frothy mumbling.
Yes, meaning that when he was mumbling, his mouth was
He was-
frothing.
It's frothing, yeah,
frothing. Yeah.
right.
Like a wild person.
Yes,
Right, absolutely, yes. Cyrilla, she
is finster.
she finster in the Augen. She became it upset her tremendously. Sie hat verloren dem Kopf und genommen ziehen von sich, was es hat sich gelassen. She
Oh.
began, she lost her head and she began to take off whatever she could from her, of what she was wearing. Hat sich aber Schimmele noch mehr zerkocht, but this made Schimmele even more enraged. Nicht da in der Mamas Bett gehen. Du bist dein Mamas Gilgul.
Oh, God.
Not over here, he said to her. Go to your mother's bed. You are a Gilgul, a transmigration of your mother's soul. Zu ihr in Bett gehen. Du hörst? Get into her bed. Do you hear me? Tappendig die Wind, a halb gechallischte, hat Cyrille gefolgt. So touching the walls, half fainting, Cyrille listened to him. Rein läufendig hinteren Paravan, noch sein Tochter, hat Schimmele a Chapgeton von Sforim Poilitzer, dem Korben Mincha, von sein verstorbener Weib, gich mit a wilden Impet genommen, mischen und mischendig gebrummt. So running behind the partition, after his daughter, Shimela grabbed from the bookcase the Korban Mincha, which is a prayer book. It's a siddur, which is called the Korban Mincha, and it belonged to his dead wife. And quickly, with a wild force, he began to turn the pages, and he shouted out, Rabbi Yeshayala hat so gesagt auf dir und ich will euch sagen. Rabbi Yeshayala said this about you and I will say the same.
Okay, thank you, Reb Yankev.
Okay, Nechama, it's your turn. Let's go.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out, something that we've noticed before in his writing. So in this just 2-page section, and it's going to come up again, is the word bromen, the shouting, the sense of horror and of disarray and of disorganization and in this scene.
I think
And
also,
he uses that word.
Also, I think in shame. He's also ashamed of what he's doing, but he can't.
I don't think he has that capability at this point. I think he's too far gone. But
no, I mean the word brumen also in the shouting. It's a mixture of everything.
Well, okay. Hat aufgemischt, das was sucht, modna schockelt sich und mit Schäum, again the word Schäum, auf de Lippen genommen Brocken über Zirlen. So he was looking for something and strangely shaking himself, and with foam on his lips, he began to brocken. He began to spew over her. He was giving out his froth over her. Azog op und dein Zeit von Chasene haben is gekommen. Azug op. I'm saying this, and your time for wedding has come. Is that correct translation? Azug op. I don't know how to translate that exactly.
I think azug up would be
okay.
Forget it. Your time forget it. Your time for your wedding.
Yeah. Very good.
Now.
That's better. Yeah. Like, okay, go on. And your time for the wedding has come. Va'aber alaich. Und ich bin über dir rübergegangen und ich hab dir gesehen, wie du keulst sich in dein Blut. And I'm saying to you that I have gone over and I have seen how your blood is, now this is talking to his daughter, how your blood is rolling to keikel,
how you are rolling in your blood.
You daughter, Cirilla.
You are in your blood.
You are rolling in your blood.
In your blood. Nechama, 1 second. I have a question to the Rov now.
Very good.
What in this passage, what does the referral to blood mean? I don't. I know the passage, but bedamech and this. What does it refer to?
He's referring to the blood she's going to lose when he gets on top of her.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
I think
I
she's
think he's
ready for
referring to
marriage.
her.
I think it sounds like she's getting her monthly thing, and that's
No, I
what
don't
I
think.
think.
I think he's
It's-
referring to your blood roiling is your sexuality. He's
Yeah, that's
accusing her
yeah. Okay,
of her being a temptress. She's Lilith. She's tempting in his mind, which is very twisted and very twisted at this point, that he's accusing her of being a very sexual human being, and your blood is boiling. You know, your blood is rolling. It's roiling
possible.
inside you. That's
Yeah. Okay.
I
that's
think
what
so.
I read it.
Yeah, I think
I don't
that
think
is
he's
correct.
referring to her menstrual cycle. I don't think he's referring to. I think he's referring to her sexuality.
Yeah, well,
and he's accusing
the reason
her.
the reason I was thinking about her monthly thing was that this pasuk describes how she has become ripe. She has ripened, so she's ready. That means it talks about developments that occurred in her body.
Yeah.
That's why.
Mm.
It talks
But I
about
think
her
he's
breasts.
accused.
It talks
Yeah,
about
later he
her
will.
body.
But
So
I
this is
think-
part of it. Okay.
I think
I don't-
I
I
think
think
it's a
he's-
bit of everything of what you've said, but in addition to this, there is the I think it's even a myth that the first time a woman has sex, that there has to be blood.
Right.
Ah,
Wow. Okay.
so yes. And it's
Which
even
is a-
checked. It's even checked.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some circles, yes.
It's even checked.
You
Stop
said
laughing, please. Stop laughing.
you said
The
exactly
Amar
what
Lach-
I said, Yankiv, except you said it in a more delicate way.
He's a very delicate person.
Correct.
Amar
I
Lach
agree.
b'dami chai, and I don't know how to
Chayi.
how to translate
Chayi.
that.
Dam-
And it said to you, in your blood you will live.
Well, this is what's said when a little boy is breast. B'damai chayi.
Ah,
With this, the blood that is spilt from the operation, there will be life thereafter.
okay, that's interesting. And ich hab zu dir gesagt, in dein Blut, Leib. Ah, so that's how that ties in. And I have
Yes.
said to you, in your blood you will live. And ich hab zu dir gesagt, in dein Blut, Leib. Ah, that's good. I couldn't get that on my own.
I'm gonna look.
Rabababitz.
I'm sorry. Yankev, I'm gonna look to see what Rashi is saying about this puzzle.
Okay.
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 And report to us, please. I'll be asking you next week, just before Yom Ha'atzmaut. Okay. Rababag Ketzemach Hasadeh. Du bist aufgewachsen wie a Pflanz in Feld und bist groß geworden und gekommen zu dein Schönheit. You have grown up like a plant in a field, and you have come to your beauty. Deine Brust seien zugegräht geworden und deine Haar haben ausgespritzt. And this was, we read this last week, and your breasts are now ready, and your hair has now, isn't it, come forward? The pubic hair, isn't that what he's referring to there?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Has sprouted, has grown.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Ja. Wie avaraleich und ich bin über dir gegangen und der sehen, als dein Zeit von Chassene haben ist gekommen. And I have come over you, and I have seen that your time for wedding has arrived. Inmitten schockelen sich azoi hat erheb getun die wilde Augen von der Weibs Karven Mincha Und der sehen, als Zirle steht a halbnackte, neben der Mama's Bett und zittert. In the middle of shaking himself, he raised his wild eyes from his wife's siddur, and he sees that Cyrilla is standing half naked near her mother's bed, and she's trembling. Hat genommen Tuppen auf ihr mit der Fist. So now he starts to, I think it's like kick her.
To kick, yeah.
Stomp
Yeah.
on her, to stamp on her with the feet. Tu sich euch in Ganzen, hab ich gesagt, Gilgul. I told you to take everything off, Gilgul. In Ganzen tu sich euch, Gilgul. Strip yourself down, Gilgul. Cyrilla hat aber mehr nicht gefolgt. Here you go. Cyrilla was no longer following his instructions. Sie hat nur verdeckt das Ponemol mit beiden nackte Penemol, yeah, thank you, Penemol, mit beiden nackte Ohren. Und sie weint sich hoch auf den Kohl. She hid her face with two naked arms and cried with a high voice. Von ihr plötzlichen Gewehen ist Schimmele in ganzen wild geworden. From her sudden cry, Schimmele became completely wild. Hat a Wurf getan dem schweren Korben Mincha von Hand und allein genommen reißen von ihr das letzte bisschen onto it. He threw from his hand, the wife's siddur, and he began to tear the last bit of clothes off of her body. Gerissen und wie a hungrige Chaie über ihr Kalben brummt. Oh, here's the word again, brummen, in 2 pages, 3 times. So he tore off the clothes like a hungry animal over her and was shouting again. Und ich bin herübergegangen vorbei dir und dir sehen, wie du keikelst sich in dein Blut. So I crossed over you and I saw how you are boiled up in your blood. Und hab zu dir gesagt, in dein Blut leb. So there's a repetition of that sentence again that I now understand. Und hab zu dir gesagt, and I said to you again, von dem Brummendicken, 4th time, euch Sterlesen gesagt, ist Cyrilla in Ganzen gekommen zu sich. Aufgetreißelt sich wie von a schweren Cholm und genommen Drappen und beißen sich wie a verblendeter Beserkatz. So, this is the moment we've been waiting for. She stands up
I
him,
want
right?
to say one thing. You say, und wie a hungrige Chaie über ihr Korben. Korben, it's like, I think you didn't translate it, like a wild animal over its victims. The korban is a victim.
Over his prey.
Prey,
Yes.
Over his
exactly.
sacrifice?
Over his prey, yes.
Over his prey.
Better, yeah.
And from the
But
shouting,
can I just say one thing before you even continue?
oh yes, please.
I think that what he's trying to do is not to rape his daughter, but like a kishiv, like magic, to make his daughter the wife that he lost. I can't explain it, but that's what
Well,
I think from the way it's
that's a nice sort of
Analogy.
resolution.
but
Mm.
it-
no, not analogy. That's a
it's
nice
wrong.
cover.
It's completely wrong, but that's what I think in the writing. Okay, I'm sorry. You
I-
trans-
as-
I think he's lost his mind. I think he's totally lost his self-control. He's been going down for a while. And as I said last week, I still blame a little bit, if we can, Reb Ishala with his
Yeshayla, absolutely.
when he saw
Absolutely.
this.
Absolutely.
Why
Okay.
I
didn't
do
he
too.
stop?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just say that in his just totally distracted and mad behavior, he doesn't see his daughter as his daughter, but he sees his daughter as
Right.
a Gilgul of Lilith,
Right.
that she has
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
the Dibuk.
Right.
She's been possessed.
She is the Dibuk.
Right.
It's like a psychotic. It's like a psychotic attack. That
Yeah.
it's like a delusion. You know, people who are psychotic see things that are not here. You know,
It is like a
imaginary
I was,
things. So
I
he
was trying
imagines
to
her.
think of that word, Yankiv. I couldn't think, but it is a Dibuk.
Yeah.
Now, how would we compare this with the very early rape we had in this story, Java's rape of Hanala, where was he also so possessed and so maddened and so that
No.
he also saw her as a Lilith and was
No.
going to attack her? I mean,
I don't think
No.
I don't think that he
think
was
so.
going that crazy. I don't think that Zabe was losing his mind. I think that he was just lusting after her.
Correct.
I don't
You
think
know,
that
we-
he got to that state that this one has gotten into.
Yeah.
You know,
no,
we
this one needs treatment. This one needs treatment that he's
definitely.
not getting.
Does he have insurance?
Rachel, we hear you, but we don't see you.
You know what I look like?
All right, let me
don't know, my
finish, let me
computer
translate
doesn't
this
work right.
sentence. Okay, from this screaming, bizarre gesucht, the word that he said, Sorala came to herself, she came to herself, and she shook herself as though from a very heavy dream, and she started to scratch and bite around like a blind cat. So now she realizes that something very wrong is happening here, but zu spät. Because
Right.
the what's been done has been done. Okay, I read the
Nechama?
rape scene.
Yeah.
but
Continue.
But
All
there
right.
wasn't.
Nechama, I have another little paragraph, and then it'll be Golda's
Okay, all right.
turn.
Well, the other little paragraph has something in it that's very interesting to me, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Geschrenis in
That
Zavulik,
can
Jiddische
I,
Weiber.
just one second. Can I just say that from my understanding of what we have read and what we are about to read, there was no rape that took place. It was an attempted thing, but it didn't
Right,
actually
okay.
take place.
I didn't hear one word you said. Can you repeat it?
I said that there was in fact no rape that took place. It was an attempted rape, but Tirila didn't permit the kind of the completion of the act, this terrible act.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, she was defending herself. She was
Yeah.
fighting with him. Yeah,
Yeah, Gott sei
yeah.
Dank.
She was scratching him and biting him. That's that's what
Right,
it says here.
like a
Nechama.
blind cat.
Yeah. Strong woman.
I think you're right. I think that's very
Yeah.
good. Jiddische
good.
Weiber und Terzel, welche seinen Punkte soll, wie Zirla gekommen von Schul farfree, gedeiht zu greiten, weil die Mannsbillen als was man darf zum Opfasten sich. So these Yiddish, the neighbors, the female neighbors in Zavulik, Jewish women and daughters who were just like Cyrilla, had come home from the synagogue early in order to prepare for their men what they needed to break the fast. Haben plötzlich gehört a groß Geschrei. They suddenly heard a huge cry. Imitzer hat geschrien Gewalt. Und Imitzer hat gebrummt, another time the word, wie Achaya, und die gemischte Kolos haben sich getragen nicht von kein ander Ort wie von dem Sofels abgeschlossene Heiseke. So let me go back there. Somebody screamed Gewalt, and somebody had screamed like an animal. And the mixture, the mixed up voices came from no other place than from the Sofer's locked house.
Yeah,
And
okay. I
under-
want to ask you, all of you who are native speakers of English, right?
Yes,
How
we try.
would you translate into your native tongue the word Gewalt?
Help!
Yeah. Yeah,
That's it.
I think
Yeah,
that's it.
that's
It's
what
the
I
next
thought.
sentence that's interesting to me. An andersmal wollt das die Schreines nicht aufgefallen so stark. Another time, this would not have appeared or seemed to the neighbor, they wouldn't have made attention to the screaming.
You know why? Because
No, but there's, let's just read the next sentence and then, worin de letzte Zeit is men schon Baruch Hashem gewohnt zu solche mini Geschreien bei Reb Shimmele. Nur Sof Neila, wenn ganz Stadt hat noch nicht geendet der Yom Hadin und alle Mannsbelin seien noch in die Schulen, ist das ausgekommen, Gol Madna. Okay, so I'll translate it and then what stopped me when I was reading it on myself. So another time, the women wouldn't have paid much attention to this because in the last bit of time, Baruch Hashem, let's just hold that there. They had become used to such screaming from Reb Shimmele's house. But how could this be before the end of Ne'ilah, when the whole city, when the whole shtat was still in the
when all the men, when alle
when all the
Mansfield,
men, yes, that's right, all the men, correct, were in still the shul, and Zarin Gevein and Shulen it appeared very, very modna, very strange. Why is it Baruch Hashem?
Blessed be he.
But it's
Because-
ironic. It's an irony.
I mean, you say Baruch Hashem when I felt better today. Baruch Hashem, he got well. Baruch Hashem. I mean, in Israel, you hear it all the time. But why would you say it here?
Because it's irony. This is a terrible irony that he's pointing out over here. Saying Baruch Hashem in this context.
I think also it is such a habit to say Baruch Hashem for everything. It is irony, but
Right.
it's just you know, my very religious friends, of whom I have quite a few, always, how are you? Oh, Baruch Hashem, this Baruch Hashem, everything, and you know.
Well, there is
a place for it.
That's the place for it. If somebody asks, how do you feel? Baruch Hashem, your blessing. Well, because there's a lot of things that are out of your control. But here, it doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit.
That's why
right.
she
That's
stopped.
right.
Very
That's
strange.
right. It doesn't fit. Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't fit. It doesn't
But
fit. And I think
just
Yankov is
don't
right.
like, I don't like it that they're using these words, Baruch Hashem, for irony. You know, it's a little bit of a Chilul Kodesh, no?
No, I don't think so.
Reb Yankov.
It's a very powerful thing that he's saying over here. This
Right.
juxtaposition of Baruch Hashem with this terrible story that we are reading about. It's
Correct.
terrible.
It
Yeah.
is.
Right,
It's
it is.
awful.
It just comes out at you. It
Yeah,
jumps out at you.
It jumps out.
That's what he's trying to do, Schneier. He's trying to
Yeah.
get you to say, hang on a second, what is going on here? How can you say Baruch Hashem in this context?
He wants you to think about what you're reading.
Yeah.
Well, he wants
Absolutely.
you to be aware of what shtetl life was like in his view. I mean, it's so powerful, the use of Baruch Hashem there. You know,
Yeah.
this too, Baruch Hashem. Anyway, I'll finish the paragraph. Seinen der Rebbe etliche Weiber rausgelaufen und genommen Trasken in einem Sofers abgeschlossenen Tier.
Wonderful.
So they began to, some of these women they ran and they began to knock in the
No. Bang. They were banging on the door that was
Trasken,
closed.
you're right, like Trasken ball. Bang, very good, Trasken. In the Sofer's abgeschlossene Tier. They probably saved her from the worst.
They absolutely. Keiner hat sie nicht geämpft, die Tier nicht aufgeriegelt. Die wilde Keulis seien all geworden starker. The wild voices just became stronger. Seien die übergeschrockene Weiber weggelaufen in 9. alten Beis Medrash, beten Ratunet. So the wives, the women that was so overwrought about it, ran back to the synagogue and they asked for help. Seinen in Savulik in 1 minute angelaufen Manspielen in Kittlin. And so immediately all the men in Savulik started running with their white coats, in Talasim with their Talasim. Mechalel Yom Kippur, given von Meirev und aufgerissen hier, Machmes,
Pekuach Nefesh.
Pekuach Nefesh. And because it's Yom Kippur, and it was before the evening service, and they tore the door to save the soul. Hat man gefunden,
Marcia, I'll just read the footnote there because you've asked. Kedei zu raten a nefesh, zu lib dem megmen mechalel sein Shabbos und Yom Tov. That's just Pekuach Nefesh, because that's the stars there. No.
Hat man gefunden, Zirelen, dem Seifers Tochter, gemachten ganzen Anakete. So they found Zirele, the scribe's daughter, almost completely naked, at the Bailte, at the Kneipte, was is at the Bailte?
Bruised.
Oh, bruised,
Yeah.
to Kneipte.
He was beating her up. He was beating
I
her
know.
up.
The is unbuttoned.
Okay, nicht in a schöneren Zustand hat man gefunden Reb Shimmelin, and not in a nice place did they find the scribe. Sein Kittel is auf ihm gewesen. His white kittel was torn. Von Nuz hat sich gegossen Blut. From his he had a bloody nose. Über der Greie to flick the bod over his bloody nose was running over his beard that was all splattered with blood. Die Backen und Hände zerdrappet und die Leute pinteldicke Augen hat gestartet sie bei a Terrace. Well, let me see his bloody nose. Okay. His cheeks and his hands were
Scratched.
Scratched.
was scratched, and the red dots in his eyes could you translate that
Yes.
portion?
His eyes strayed like a madman.
Cyril hat noch bewiesen, auszuschreien. Dalton, hat gewollt. And she screamed. Cyril started screaming, him there. He wanted und is anite gefallen und gechallischt, and she fell down and fainted. Die Weiber haben sich genommen, abminteren Cyrillen, und die angelaufene Mannsbilden haben sich geworfen auf Reb Schimmelen, angehabt ihm, wer vor die Hand, dann fahren Kölner und weggeführt durch der ganze Schulgasse. Could you raise it a little bit, please? Masha, could you raise it one little bit so I could read the last sentence? Durch der ganze Schulgasse zum Rav, nachfahren, abfassen sich. The women tried to help Cyrilla for her to come to herself, right? And all the men that were there were threw themselves on the scribe. They took him therefore the hand. They grabbed him and by his collar, and they dragged him through the whole Shul Street to the Rav's house, even before they were able to eat after the fast, even though they didn't complete the fast. Die erste etliche Tritt hat man ihm gemusst schleppen. The first couple of steps, they had to actually drag him. Schimmel hat sich geworfen. He tried to hold back. He was gebricket, gewoyet, wie gesamte Chaya. He threw himself and he was moving and throwing himself and
kicking.
And
he was kicking.
Yeah, like an animal that was poisoned. No, mit einmal ist still geworden, but suddenly he became quiet. Fuß gestellt, danach hat zweite und gelassen sich führen die gebundene Sheps. And then suddenly he became quiet. He put one foot forward, then another, a second, and he allowed them to carry him, to lead him like a bound sheep.
All right. You want to read another paragraph?
No, it's getting
You
late.
remember
Okay.
Wait a minute. You remember those wonderful scenes of the slaughterhouse? You know, he plays back and forth Schnee. Now,
Mm.
Yeah.
the animals that were drunk and bound, and now this person.
Yes, that was a
Nechama,
very,
yeah.
Nechama, that's a very, very clever observation. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah. Are
he's
you a professor of literature or something?
not at all. I'm a reader like all of you, and I love reading with you. That's it.
Now,
Okay, it's your turn, Rachel.
the word sheps, that means shepsel is Rachel, right? Yankev?
No, a shepsel is a sheep.
A sheep, yeah.
But a little sheep. No, Rachel in Hebrew is a shepsel in Yiddish. No?
I have no
I
idea.
don't know. I don't know.
Okay, I thought you knew. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's my turn now. Okay. Asach aufgeregte Keules oder gehört auf sich. A lot of angry voice he heard around himself. Amaise Neuro, Sodom, Ärger wie in Sodom. In Mitten Yom Kippur, this is a terrible deed. This is Sodom. It's worse than Sodom. In the middle of Yom Kippur, Aida Sofer, a Jew, a scribe, aber Punkt, wie wohl taub und blind geworden. But it's as if he became deaf and blind. Hat gestummt.
He was silent.
Yeah, okay. Seine zerkratzte, herabgelosene Augen haben nur gesehen die rote Tropens proskaklen sich von sein zerblutiger Nose über sein greuer Bord und fallen beim Gehen über seine Schicht und Socken und in Stäubereien. Okay, so his eyes that were already scratched and looking down.
Downcast.
What were you saying?
Downcast.
Downcast. Thank you. Yeah. My English lesson. Yeah, downcast. They saw, those eyes saw the red drops that are rolling down down from his bloody nose over his gray beard and are falling as he was walking over his shoes and socks and right into the dust.
Mm.
Hat sich also gelosen führen, bis etliche Klafter fahren Rebes Häus, fahren Ravs Häus. He allowed them to lead him like that and up to where up to it's like a few. If this is what I found in a dictionary, a few cords of wood, probably
a certain
up
measure,
to close to
distance.
the house. Da hat sich Schimmele plötzlich ein Riss getan mit einem übermenschlichen Koyach. Here, Schimmele all of a sudden tore himself away with inhuman energy. Überlosen die Stücke Atlas und Leibend von sein Kapotte und Kittel in die Hand von seine Unterführer, and by him tearing himself up from them, he left pieces of satin and linen of his capote, of his black coat, and his white coat. He left all of them in the hands of his leaders of votes. Und Pfeil von Beugen entlaufen auf Schulgas zu die Goyeschke Chotes. Pfeil von Bogen is like a arrow
Bow
out,
and arrow. Bow and
out
arrow.
of the bow. I guess as fast as a file of a comes out of an arrow, he ran into the
Down.
he went down to the Shulgas, to the synagogue street, to the area of the huts where the goyim live.
Yeah, in the direction.
And
In
yes,
that direction, yeah. When they talk about goyish hais, sometimes they call them chates, like the goyim live in chates. I had it before. Erst hat haben sich Jiden gehabt, als die Chaie hat sich noch verteilt, als die kleinerste Nochgebigkeit von halb Meshugen auf Säufer ist gewähnt chitere ausgerechnet. Where he says it. Only now the Jews have realized that this animal only was hiding himself, like he was hiding his real identity. That apparent devotion that he showed, that apparent devotion of that half crazy scribe, was all cunningly calculated.
The submissiveness.
What were you saying?
The submissiveness of the
Yeah,
scribe was
okay. Noch Gebigkeit, yes, you're right. Noch yeah. I read it as devotion,
Okay.
but you're right. Yeah.
Gnosis.
No, sie schon gewähnt zu
Noch
spät.
Gebigkeit.
It was already too late. Schimmele ist gelaufen mit der verzweifelten Impet und mit Ausgerehen von an untergeschossene Chaie. Schimmele was running with great enthusiasm, with hurriedly.
Desperate.
Right.
With
What were you
desperate
saying?
force. With a desperate
Okay, with a desperate force. Good.
force.
Okay, thank you. And with the screaming of an animal that was shot.
A wounded animal, yeah.
Und jeden abgeschwachte von Fasten und von einer Aufgeregtkeit, haben viele kein Koyach nicht gehabt, noch zu laufen, a ganz, nicht nur Fabrike, wenn noch a sehr wilden Menschen. So Jews who were weakened by fasting and by this kind of aggravation, they didn't even have the energy to run after a duck.
A goose.
A gans
goose.
is a goose, yeah. I'm
Mm.
sorry, yeah. I always mix between the two. A goose, nicht noch Fabrike, wenn noch a sehr wilden Menschen. Fabrike, wenn, what is it exactly? I didn't find in the dictionary. I think maybe it ran after, but
No,
you know.
it's just to restrain. They didn't have the strength
Restrain?
to restrain. Yeah,
Okay.
a wild person.
A restrain after, I don't know. Okay.
Or to resist. To resist.
There's so much work. Do you hear noise?
No.
I have noise in my outside. Okay. Von deswegen ist mir noch gelaufen. Still, in spite of all that, they were running after him. Aber hat man gehad? Did they have any choice? Gay, los liberazaroshe of the fry. Go let such an evil guy be free. They have to run after him. Mis so noch gelaufen, noch ein Säufer, bis der größere Mill. Dort, wo die Osere fällt rein in tiefen Tal von Dnieper und dreht die große Milchsteine. So they ran after him like that until they got into the big windmill. I guess this is Zave's windmill. Yeah. Where the lake or the pond is, the lake is falling into the deep valley of the
Right.
Dnieper,
Right.
the Dnieper Valley, and it activates the big
Mill.
stone of the mill.
Millstones.
Okay, millstones, okay. Der Schettach zwischen dem Entlaufenen und Nachläufer ist geworden als größer und größer. Der Schettach, that's the area, the distance between the runaway person and those that are running after him, it became larger and larger. Und mir hat nur von der Weitens gesehen, wie Reb Shimele läuft auf einen heukerdicken Brickel, was über der Reblie geht ein Sprung über der Porenche wird verschwunden. And now, this is the most terrible sin of all. Because he's committing suicide. They could see, even though there was a larger distance between him and them, they could see from a distance how Reb Shimele is jumping on the bend down bridge, on the bend down little bridge that is over the I don't remember what the Rebli is.
Over the
dam.
railing. He jumps over the railing.
The railing.
The rail, okay, the rail.
The railing.
The railing,
The railing.
okay.
The
Okay. Gita Sprung über der Porenche. He jumps. Okay, yeah. Railing is Porenche, but Rebli,
The Hereblia is the dam.
the dam.
yeah, that's
okay,
the jail.
yeah,
That's the dam.
that's what it. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so he's jumping over the railing, wird verschwunden, and he disappears.
Disappears.
Und am dicken Schmeißräuel hat man der Herd in der vernachtige Killerluft. And a frightening Schmeißräuel, that's what he was
Zero.
saying. They had in the cool air of the
The evening.
And the dark.
between
Right.
or the evening. Those
And the
those
cool
schlecht-
air
those schlecht-
for the evening. Fahrnachtige.
what is Farnacht in English?
Fahrnachtige is dusk.
Dusk.
That is true. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't seen this word in a long time. I don't see it in America. That's in Shakespeare. Yeah. Okay. But thank you. Das Schrecklichste ist gewesen das, was dem Schmeißräuel hat man der Herd a regele später. Nachdem wir Rab Shimele is a rob in a Reblie rein.
Mhm.
The worst thing was that that he's praying, he's saying Shema Yisrael, they had a minute later, after Reb Shimele already jumped into the dam. Das trifft auch nur, wenn das geschehen ist בערך 9 Farnoig und weit Farnoir. Now, why was it heard later after he jumped? Because this happens sometimes when the event is closer to the eye and distant to the ear. You can see it before you can hear what's happening. Wenn der Herr dem Schoss später wie man der sieht dem Räuch, you can see, you can hear the
shot.
The shooting later, then you can see the smoke. No, do hat das gemacht ein Eindruck von einem jungdicken Wunder, wie ein Kohl von Wasserkäfer, wohin Reb Shimele ist erop. But here, it made the impression of a frightening wonder, like a voice that came from a water grave where Reb Shimele went down. Chazak.
I think this is a good place to stop at Dalit.
Yeah.
Cecil B. DeMille. I mean, it's really so
Yes.
dramatic.
This really was some chapter to read.